All right, so we are recording. This is Andrea, and this is Julie. Right? Oops, I always forget. That's Julie. I'm totally mixed match because everything is flip-flopped in here. So we're going to talk a little bit about Juicy Soul Retreat as we just work on our own stuff today. So I'm excited to talk about this. Julie and I have been doing Juicy Soul Retreat since when? What did we ever decide what year that was? 2012, I think it was.
Yeah, that was the guest I had. 2012 was the year that we had this retreat. We talked about it and we were like, we've got to get more people being creative and get people out of the concern for using their stuff.
Right.
And make it be something that can be fun and simple, break it all down so it's not that scary for everybody. And then, you know, we have so much stuff that we have. It's good to get together and use all the things that we've purchased, all the fun stuff.
Exactly. And I think it's so much more fun to be creating together because you just sort of vibe off of each other. And when somebody else is doing something, you're not like thinking so much. I don't know, that sounds kind of funny, but when you're creating in a group, you're not thinking so much about what you're doing. You're just kind of listening to what's going on, listening to the chit chat. And for me, it makes it kind of exciting because you look up and you're like, oh, what did you do? You guys had the same instructions or the same, you know, prompts as I did, and look at what it looks like. And oh, I hadn't thought of trying that. And so I don't know, it's fun creating in community like that.
It is also because I think I also get distracted. So I'm not as like the inner critic isn't
exactly
so loud because I'm creating and I'm listening and I'm following along, or I'm doing my own thing, but I'm not listening to when I'm, you know, by myself or quiet. Have a tendency to focus and, oh, I don't like that. What's going to happen with that? How's that going to work? You know, so I don't have that same concern.
Yeah, exactly.
Plus, when I take a break, I get to look up and see what somebody else is doing. Get an idea, get some inspiration.
I know.
You know, what people are creating around me.
Yeah.
Enjoy.
That's a lot of fun. So when we started talking about doing this and you started sharing on Instagram, you were getting some questions. But before we get there, you had some questions, and we were talking about just asking each other questions and sort of this blind reveal. You know, what, like if I were to ask you a question, I think my first question for you, Julie, would be like, do you have certain colors that you just gravitate towards every time? Is it and to follow up with that, do you find that your colors change depending on the season or, let's just say the season?
Yeah. I don't think that my colors have changed that much. I love bright colors.
Yeah.
I love blending colors together. I particularly love just seeing what will happen. I don't like a lot, you know, when I first started, I've created for a long time, but I remember kind of creating in college and thinking, oh, maybe I would like to be a graphic designer or something like that. And I remember taking formal art classes and having people say, you know, this is the way you do this, and this is perspective. And there was so much rules that I think mostly what I'm looking at when I'm creating is when I'm choosing colors, I'm looking for things that break the rule or just see what's going to happen. Or I'm trying to use combinations that maybe other people wouldn't think to use to just make me happy. So I do have a tendency to gravitate toward bright colors, but I also like contrast.
Yeah.
You know, so I will put bright colors and then add a white. The one color that I don't use a lot of is black. I'm always thinking it's covering up too much, well. And I like realizing like, oh, there might be something underneath this that I might want to try. And so if I cover it all up, it's almost like covering it up with gesso, but I'd rather use white gesso and black gesso to cover things up. So I don't really use black that often, but yeah, I usually it doesn't change by season. I usually don't get too influenced by what other people are doing with their, you know, I've tried, you know, thinking, oh, maybe I'll try something else. No.
Yeah.
It always gravitates back to the same ones. So what about you?
Well, that's cool. And what you said that really resonated with me was colors that make you happy. And there are definitely colors that make me happy. What I'm working on right here has a lot of blues and greens in it, but it has this little pop of orange and sort of corally colors. Those, they just, when they're together, it just makes me happy. So you can definitely, I think you can definitely tell I gravitate towards certain colors. And I used to think that it changed seasonally, but I'm finding that's not so much the case anymore. The longer I work with color, and like you, I like to mix color, and I love that concept, how you described it, of just sort of breaking the rules. And oftentimes when I teach how not to make mud, but then I realized one time when I was teaching, somebody was like thinking that it was wrong to make mud.
Yes.
And it's not wrong to make mud. And one of the things that I say is, like, you know, flowers take mud to grow, right? So, I mean, beautiful things come out of mud, but if you're not looking for muddy colors, I'm here to teach you like some basic concepts that will keep your colors from getting muddy if you don't want them to, but there's nothing wrong with mud. I even have a class called Playing in the Mud, and it's about intentionally making neutralized colors from using complements. So yeah, I love color. I love mixing color. I love complementary colors. So like this blue and the orange just vibrates off of that blue.
Yep.
And that makes me happy. And so like you know, like I just gravitate towards things that make me happy.
Yep.
Yep.
That is for sure what I enjoy most. And I like to discover things. I think that's why I also don't like a whole lot of things around rules. I think the way that I teach is just to, you know, you want to explain like what's happening, why things are a certain way, but you kind of swing out, right? So I'm using watercolor brushes for acrylic. I'm using like this. Oh, scary. Oh my God. Someone's going to come take my brushes. So I like being able to kind of I think it's helpful to know what the properties of things are.
Yeah.
Right. So knowing, like, if you, right now I'm using some kind of, these are wax kind of crayons, but they're not going to cover really well over something that's already wet, but I'm going to know that by playing around with it. Yeah. So I do like to have people just kind of try things and see what happens. But because sometimes you can get a really interesting texture by mixing things that are not supposed to be mixed together.
Yep.
And then you got to deal with, like, sometimes you mix things together that can't stay together, and then how to make them dry, because I've had some things I'll mix and it takes a long time to dry. So I just cover it with matte medium. It seems to cover it, you know, end of that. Yeah.
Exactly.
So
it's
clear
like
matte medium.
What happens when ... Yep. Very much so.